Marcus sat alone in the corner of the big university cafeteria. He was tired. His eyes were heavy from staying up all night to study for his chemistry test. The room was noisy with students talking and laughing, but Marcus didn't join them. He had work to do. Marcus was not like most students at Westfield University. He came from a small town where few people went to college. His mom worked 2 jobs to help him get here. Every day, Marcus felt lucky to have this scholarship, but he also felt the heavy weight of it. If his grades dropped, he would lose everything. Just keep your head down and work hard, Marcus told himself as he opened his chemistry book. He took a sip of his cheap coffee and made a face. It was cold now, but he couldn't afford to buy another one. At a table across the room, a group of rich students laughed loudly. They didn't worry about money or grades. Their parents paid for everything. Marcus tried not to feel bitter. He just needed to focus on his own path. Suddenly, the cafeteria doors swung open. A tall man in an expensive gray suit walked in. He wore shiny shoes that probably cost more than all of Marcus's clothes put together. 4 university officials walked with him, smiling big fake smiles. "That's Richard Bennett," a girl at the next table whispered to her friend. "The tech billionaire. He's worth like $30 billion. Marcus knew who Bennett was. Everyone did. His face was on magazine covers and news shows. He had started a tech company in his garage and now owned buildings all over the world. People said he was the smartest businessman alive. The university president was showing Bennett around like he was a king. "And this is our student cafeteria, Mr. Bennett. We're so honored to have you visit Westfield today." Marcus watched as the group moved toward the food line. The cafeteria staff had put out special food for the important visitor. Fresh fruits, fancy sandwiches, and desserts that weren't usually there. Bennett smiled and nodded at students as he passed. Some took pictures with their phones. Others tried to get close to him. Marcus stayed in his corner. Rich people like Bennett lived in a different world. As Marcus turned back to his chemistry book, he remembered something important. Yesterday, he had been working in the university lab. It was his part-time job that helped pay for books. The lad was testing food samples from local farms. Some apples had tested positive for dangerous chemicals. The levels were much higher than what was safe to eat. Marcus looked up again at the food line. His heart stopped. Right there, on a special tray marked for our special guest, were bright red apples. They looked exactly like the contaminated ones from the lab. That can't be right, Marcus thought. Those apples should have been thrown away. He watched in horror as Bennett reached for one of the red apples. The billionaire smiled at something the university president said and lifted the apple toward his mouth. Marcus's mind raced. Could these be the same apples? What if they were? Bennett could get very sick. But what if Marcus was wrong? He would look stupid in front of everyone. He might even lose his job at the lab or his scholarship. Bennett was about to take a bite. Marcus had only seconds to decide what to do. The weight of his decision pressed on him. If he stayed quiet, a man might get poisoned. If he spoke up, he might lose everything he had worked for. Marcus looked at his chemistry book, then at Bennett with the apple. Science was about truth. It was about doing what was right, even when it was hard. Marcus stood up. His chair made a loud noise as it scraped across the floor. People turned to look at him. His heart pounded in his chest. His hands shook. But he knew what he had to do. He took a deep breath and shouted words that would change his life forever. "Don't eat it." Marcus's voice echoed through the cafeteria. The room went suddenly quiet. All eyes turned to him. Richard Bennett stopped with the apple just inches from his mouth. He looked surprised, his hand frozen in midair. The university president's smile dropped from his face. Security guards standing near the door took a step forward. Marcus's legs felt weak. His heart beat so fast, he could hear it in his ears. But he had already shouted. There was no going back now. "That apple might be bad," Marcus said, his voice shaking. "Please, don't eat it." The cafeteria was so quiet Marcus could hear the clock ticking on the wall. Students stared with open mouths. Some held up phones to record what was happening. A few people laughed nervously. "Who is that kid? What is he doing? He's going to get in so much trouble." The whispers spread around the room. Marcus felt his face grow hot. One of the university officials stepped forward. It was Dean Wilson, head of the science department. His face was red with anger. "Young man, what do you think you're doing? Do you know who this is?" Marcus swallowed hard. "Yes, sir. I know who Mr. Bennett is. But those apples. This is completely unacceptable," the university president cut in. He turned to Bennett with an embarrassed smile. "I am so sorry for this disruption, Mr. Bennett. I assure you." But Richard Bennett raised his hand, stopping the president mid-sentence. He looked directly at Marcus, his eyes curious rather than angry. "Let the young man speak," Bennett said calmly. He set the apple down on his plate. "What's your name?" "Marcus Williams, sir." "And why shouldn't I eat this apple, Marcus?" All the important people were looking at him now. Marcus took a deep breath. He had to explain clearly. "Lives might be at risk. I work part-time in the chemistry lab, sir. Yesterday we were testing food samples. There were red apples just like these that showed high levels of dangerous pesticides, way above what's safe. They were supposed to be marked and thrown away." Dean Wilson frowned. "That's impossible. Our cafeteria food is carefully checked." "I saw the test results myself, sir," Marcus said. "The apples had green stickers on the bottom. Can you check if these do too?" Bennett picked up the apple and turned it over. There was a small green dot sticker on the bottom. His eyebrows went up. "He's right," Bennett said, showing the sticker to the others. "There is a green mark." The university president quickly took the apple. "I'll have this removed immediately," and all the others checked. He waved to the cafeteria staff who rushed to take away the fruit trays. Marcus stood there, not sure what to do next. Should he go back to his seat? Should he leave? Everyone was still watching him. "That took courage," Bennett said, looking at Marcus with new interest. Most people would have stayed quiet, especially in front of a crowd. Marcus shook his head. "I couldn't let anyone get sick, sir. Not when I knew there might be a problem." "How did you recognize these specific apples?" Bennett asked. "They have a certain shine to them. The pesticide leaves a slight waxy coating that's different from normal apples. We noted it in the lab." Bennett nodded, clearly impressed. He turned to the university president. "I'd like to speak with this young man privately." The president looked surprised but quickly nodded. "Of course, we can use my office." As Marcus followed Bennett and the officials out of the cafeteria, he could feel hundreds of eyes on his back. Students were whispering, some taking pictures. His phone buzzed in his pocket as messages started coming in. Marcus had no idea what would happen next. He might be in big trouble for causing a scene. Or maybe, just maybe, this strange moment would lead to something good. Either way, he knew he had done the right thing. As they walked toward the administration building, Bennett fell into step beside Marcus. "So, Marcus Williams," he said quietly, "tell me more about yourself and how you came to know so much about pesticide testing." The university president's office was big and fancy. Marcus had never been inside it before. The walls were covered with photos of important people and awards. A large desk made of dark wood sat in the center of the room. Everything looked expensive. Marcus felt out of place in his worn jeans and simple t-shirt. He sat in a soft leather chair across from Richard Bennett. The university president and Dean Wilson stood nearby, watching closely. "So, Marcus," Bennett began, "tell me about your studies here." Marcus cleared his throat. "I'm studying chemistry, sir. I want to make medicines that people can afford. In my neighborhood, many people get sick because they can't pay for good medicine." Bennett nodded. "And you work in the lab. Is that part of your studies?" "No, sir. It's my job. I need money for books and food. My scholarship pays for classes in my dorm room. but not everything. The university president stepped forward. "Mr. Bennett, I want to assure you that we're looking into this apple situation right away. Professor Adams from our food safety department is checking the cafeteria now." Just then, a phone rang. Dean Wilson answered it, listened for a moment, then looked up with a surprised face. "It seems Marcus was right," he said slowly. Professor Adams confirmed that the apples with green dots were part of a pesticide study. They were never meant to be in the cafeteria. Someone made a mistake when moving them from the lab storage area. The university president's face turned red. "This is completely unacceptable. I promise you, Mr. Bennett, someone will be held responsible for this." Bennett waved his hand. "Mistakes happen. What matters is that no one got hurt, thanks to Marcus here." He turned back to Marcus. "You potentially saved me and others from getting sick. That took real courage and quick thinking." Marcus felt relief wash over him. He wasn't in trouble. In fact, he had helped stop something bad from happening. "Thank you, sir. I was just doing what anyone would do." Bennett smiled. "Not anyone, Marcus. Many people would have stayed quiet, worried about making a scene or getting in trouble. You put safety above your own comfort." The university president nodded quickly. "Yes, indeed. Marcus is one of our brightest students. We're very proud of him." Marcus almost laughed. The president had never spoken to him before today. He probably didn't even know Marcus existed until now. Bennett seemed to read Marcus's thoughts. "Have you always been interested in chemistry?" he asked, changing the subject. "Yes, sir. Since I was a kid. My mom got sick when I was young. The medicine was too expensive, so she couldn't take it right away. By the time we saved enough money, she was very sick. She got better, but it took a long time." Marcus paused. "That's when I decided to learn how to make medicine that everyone could afford." Bennett listened carefully. Something in his eyes changed, a look of real interest. "That's a worthy goal," he said. "And how are your grades? Are you at the top of your class?" Marcus looked down. "I try my best, sir. I'm doing well, but it's hard when you have to work jobs on the side. Some weeks I only get a few hours of sleep each night." Bennett nodded thoughtfully. He looked at Marcus's worn backpack and simple clothes. Then he made a decision. "I'd like to learn more about your studies and your work in the lab," Bennett said. "Maybe you could show me around the chemistry department. I'm interested in seeing what you're working on." The university president looked surprised but quickly smiled. "Of course. We'd be honored to have Mr. Bennett tour our facilities." Marcus couldn't believe what was happening. First, he had shouted at a billionaire in the cafeteria. Now that same billionaire wanted him, a scholarship student, to show him around the university. "I'd be happy to, sir," Marcus said. "The chemistry building is just across campus." As they stood to leave, Bennett put his hand on Marcus's shoulder. "And after the tour, I'd like to hear more about your ideas for affordable medicine. I have some thoughts that might interest you." The chemistry building was old but clean. As Marcus led the way, students stopped and stared. It wasn't every day that Richard Bennett walked these halls. The university president and Dean Wilson followed behind, smiling and nodding at everyone they passed. "This is our main lab," Marcus said, opening a door. Inside, students in white coats worked at long tables. The room smelled of chemicals and cleaning products. "This is where we have our basic classes." Bennett looked around with interest. "And where do you work? The place where you tested those apples?" "That's in the research wing," Marcus said. "It's where upper-level students and professors do their work." They walked down a long hall to another part of the building. Marcus used his ID card to open a secure door. Inside was a much more advanced lab with better equipment. "Hello, Marcus," said an older woman in a lab coat. She looked surprised to see the group with him. "I didn't expect you until this afternoon." "Hi, Dr. Patel. This is Mr. Bennett. He wanted to see our lab." Marcus turned to Bennett. "Dr. Patel is my supervisor here. She's teaching me a lot." Dr. Patel shook Bennett's hand. "It's an honor to meet you, Mr. Bennett. Marcus is one of our best student workers. He has a natural talent for research." Bennett nodded. "So I'm learning. Marcus, show me where you found the problem with those apples." Marcus led them to his workstation. It was clean and organized, with notebooks neatly stacked and labeled. He showed them the testing equipment and explained how they had found the high levels of pesticides. "We were testing samples from local farms," Marcus explained. "Most were fine, but these apples from one farm had chemical levels way above what's safe. We marked them with green dots for later study." "And how did they end up in the cafeteria?" Bennett asked. Dr. Patel looked uncomfortable. "That was my fault, I'm afraid. I told a new lab assistant to dispose of them properly. He must have misunderstood and sent them to the kitchen instead." The university president looked angry, but Bennett just nodded. "Honest mistake. The important thing is that Marcus caught it." Marcus showed them more of his work. He explained the research he was helping with, testing new compounds that might be used in medicines. Bennett asked smart questions that showed he understood the science. "You know a lot about chemistry, sir," Marcus said, surprised. Bennett smiled. "I studied chemical engineering before I started my tech company. Science was my first love." As they talked, Marcus forgot about being nervous. He talked about his ideas for making medicines cheaper by finding new ways to make them. Bennett listened carefully, sometimes asking questions or suggesting other approaches. The university president kept trying to pull Bennett away to see other parts of the campus, but Bennett wasn't interested. He wanted to hear more from Marcus. "These big drug companies charge too much," Marcus said, his eyes bright with passion. "They say it's because research costs money, but people shouldn't have to choose between medicine and food." Bennett nodded. "I agree. It's a problem I've thought about too." After an hour in the lab, they walked back across campus. Students whispered and pointed as they passed. News of what happened in the cafeteria had spread quickly. "Your scholarship covers tuition?" Bennett asked as they walked. "Yes, sir. And my dorm room. I work to pay for books, food, and everything else." "And after you graduate, what are your plans?" Marcus sighed. "I hope to get into a good graduate program. Then maybe work for a research lab, or start my own company someday, if I can find the money. It's a long road ahead." They reached the administration building where Bennett's car was waiting. It was a sleek black car with a driver standing beside it. "I've enjoyed meeting you, Marcus," Bennett said, shaking his hand. "You've given me a lot to think about." "Thank you for listening, sir," Marcus said, "and for not being angry about the apple." Bennett smiled. "Sometimes the unexpected moments are the most valuable ones. I have a feeling we'll talk again soon." As Bennett's car drove away, Marcus stood there wondering what had just happened. Had he really spent the last 2 hours talking science with one of the richest men in the world? The next morning, Marcus woke up to his phone buzzing nonstop. He had turned it off last night after too many messages from people he barely knew. Everyone wanted to talk about what happened with Bennett. His roommate, Jamal, was sitting on his bed, eyes wide. "Dude, you're all over the internet. Someone posted a video of you yelling at Bennett in the cafeteria. It has thousands of views already." Marcus groaned and covered his face with his pillow. "Great, just what I need." "Are you kidding? This is awesome. You're famous now." Marcus sat up and checked his phone. 57 new messages, 10 missed calls. His social media notifications were in the hundreds. He scrolled through some of the messages from classmates. "Did you really save Bennett from being poisoned? I heard he's giving you a job. Way to go, Williams." There were also some mean comments calling him an attention seeker. Marcus sighed and put his phone down. He needed to get ready for class. As he walked across campus, people stared and pointed. Some gave him thumbs up. Others whispered to their friends. Marcus kept his head down and walked faster. His chemistry class was worse. When he walked in, everyone went quiet, then started whispering. Even the professor gave him a long look. "Mr. Williams," she said, "I see you've had an exciting day yesterday." Marcus just nodded and took his seat. He tried to focus on the lecture, but it was hard with everyone looking at him. After class, Professor Winters asked him to stay behind. "Marcus, Dean Wilson wants to see you in his office," she said. "Right away." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. Was he in trouble? Maybe the university was angry about the scene he caused. When he got to the dean's office, the secretary sent him right in. Dean Wilson was sitting behind his desk with a serious face. "Sit down, Marcus," he said, pointing to a chair. Marcus sat, his hands sweaty. "Sir, if this is about yesterday, I'm sorry for causing a scene, but I really thought." Dean Wilson held up his hand. "This isn't about that." "Well, not directly." He picked up an envelope from his desk. "This came for you this morning, by special courier." He handed the envelope to Marcus. It was thick, made of expensive paper. On the front was Marcus's name in neat handwriting. "It's from Richard Bennett," Dean Wilson said. His voice sounded strange, like he couldn't decide if he was impressed or jealous. Marcus carefully opened the envelope. Inside was a letter on fancy paper, with Bennett's company logo at the top. Marcus read it slowly, his eyes getting bigger with each line. "What does it say?" Dean Wilson asked, leaning forward. Marcus looked up, his hands shaking a little. "Mr. Bennett is offering me a special scholarship. It covers everything: tuition, room, food, books, even money for personal expenses." He paused, hardly believing the next part. "And a paid internship at his research company next summer." Dean Wilson's eyebrows shot up. "That's quite an opportunity." Marcus kept reading. "He says he was impressed by my quick thinking and my passion for making affordable medicine." Marcus couldn't believe it. This had to be a dream. There was more. Bennett wanted Marcus to join a special research program his company was funding. It would give Marcus access to top scientists and advanced labs. At the bottom of the letter was a personal note from Bennett. "Your courage yesterday showed me that you have both the mind and the character needed to make real change in this world. I look forward to seeing what you will accomplish. Call my assistant to set up a meeting next week." A business card was attached with a phone number. "This is wow," Marcus said, struggling to find words. Dean Wilson nodded. "Indeed. It seems you've made quite an impression on Mr. Bennett." He leaned back in his chair. "You know, Marcus, I've always thought you showed great promise." Marcus tried not to smile. Yesterday, Dean Wilson barely knew his name. "Thank you, sir," Marcus said politely. "May I go now? I need to call my mom about this." Dean Wilson nodded. "Of course." And Marcus, "Congratulations." Marcus walked out of the office in a daze. He still couldn't believe what was happening. Yesterday, he was just a struggling scholarship student. Today, his life had completely changed. All because he shouted, "Don't eat that," to a billionaire. Marcus called his mom as soon as he left the dean's office. His hand shook as he dialed her number. She worked as a nurse's aide at the local hospital and usually couldn't answer her phone during shifts. Today, he hoped she would make an exception. "Marcus, is everything okay?" His mom answered, sounding worried. She only got calls at work when something was wrong. "Mom, something amazing happened," Marcus said. He told her the whole story. About the apples, shouting at Bennett, and now the scholarship offer. "Oh my goodness," she said, her voice breaking. "My baby, I'm so proud of you." He could tell she was trying not to cry. "I know it's hard for you to get time off, Mom, but maybe you could come visit soon. I'd like you to see the university." "I'll find a way," she promised. Nothing could keep me away after news like this. After talking to his mom, Marcus headed to the library. He needed a quiet place to think. The main room was crowded, so he found a small study room in the back and closed the door. Marcus read Bennett's letter again. The scholarship would change everything. No more working late nights at the lab just for money. No more skipping meals to save cash. He could focus completely on his studies. There was a knock on the door. Marcus looked up to see Alicia, a girl from his chemistry class. She was smart and pretty, and Marcus had always been too shy to talk to her much. "Hi," she said, smiling. "Can I come in?" "Sure," Marcus said, surprised. Alicia sat across from him. "So you're the hero of the hour," she said. "Everyone's talking about you." Marcus shook his head. "I'm no hero. I just did what anyone would do." "Not anyone," she said, just like Bennett had. "Most people stay quiet, even when they know something's wrong." She looked at him with new respect in her eyes. "I heard Bennett offered you some kind of scholarship." "News travels fast," Marcus said. "This is a small campus," Alicia laughed. "No secrets here." She hesitated, then added, "Some of us are getting together to study for the chemistry midterm. Would you like to join us?" Before yesterday, no one had invited Marcus to study groups. He was always the quiet kid in the back who kept to himself. Now, suddenly, people wanted to know him. "That would be nice," he said. "Thanks." Later that afternoon, Marcus called the number on Bennett's card. A woman with a professional voice answered. "Mr. Bennett's office. How may I help you?" "This is Marcus Williams. Mr. Bennett asked me to call about a meeting." "Ah, yes, Mr. Williams. Mr. Bennett mentioned you would be calling. He would like to meet you next Wednesday at his company headquarters. Would 2 p.m. work for you?" Marcus checked his class schedule. He had a lab that day. "I have a class then." "That won't be a problem. Mr. Bennett has already spoken with your university. You'll be excused from classes that day. A car will pick you up at noon." Marcus was amazed. Bennett had that much power. Just a quick call and Marcus could miss classes with no problem. "Okay, Wednesday at 2 p.m. works," he said. "Excellent. The driver will have your visitor's pass. Is there anything else you need, Mr. Williams?" Marcus thought for a moment. What should I wear? He didn't own a suit or fancy clothes. The woman's voice softened a bit. "Business casual is fine. Mr. Bennett is more interested in your mind than your clothes." That night, Marcus couldn't sleep. His life had changed so fast. Just 2 days ago, he was a regular student struggling to get by. Now he had a full scholarship and a meeting with one of the richest men in the country. His phone buzzed with a text from his mom. "Just got approved for 3 days off next weekend. Coming to see you, baby. So proud." Marcus smiled in the dark. For once, good things were happening, but a small worry nagged at the back of his mind. What exactly did Bennett want from him? Why was a billionaire so interested in a college student he just met? The answer would have to wait until Wednesday. For now, Marcus tried to enjoy the feeling that for once, his hard work and quick thinking had paid off in a big way. Wednesday came quickly. At noon, Marcus stood outside his dorm building, wearing his best clothes. Khaki pants, a blue button-up shirt, and the only pair of dress shoes he owned. They were a little tight, but they would do. A long black car pulled up in front of him. The driver, a man in a neat uniform, stepped out and opened the back door. "Mr. Williams?" the driver asked. "Yes, that's me," Marcus replied. "Mr. Bennett is looking forward to meeting with you today," the driver said with a smile. Marcus slid into the back seat. The car was nicer than any he had ever been in. The seats were soft leather, and there was a small fridge with cold drinks inside. Marcus didn't touch anything, afraid he might break something expensive. The drive took an hour. They left the small college town and headed toward the big city. Marcus watched the buildings get taller as they got closer to downtown. Finally, they pulled up to a gleaming glass tower with Bennett Innovations written across the top. "We're here, sir," the driver said, opening Marcus's door. Marcus stepped out and looked up at the tall building. His stomach felt tight with nerves. He took a deep breath and walked through the front doors. The lobby was huge, with high ceilings and modern art on the walls. A woman at the front desk smiled at him. "Marcus Williams, welcome to Bennett Innovations. Mr. Bennett is expecting you. Please take this visitor badge and follow me." She led Marcus to an elevator that needed a special card to work. When the doors opened, they were on the top floor. The view of the city was amazing. Marcus could see for miles in every direction. "Right this way," the woman said, leading him down a hallway to a large office. Richard Bennett was sitting at a desk, looking at papers. When he saw Marcus, he stood up with a smile. "Marcus, good to see you again. Please, have a seat." He pointed to a comfortable chair across from his desk. Marcus sat down, still nervous. "Thank you for inviting me, Mr. Bennett. Please, call me Richard." Bennett sat down across from him. "I'm glad you could come. How are things at the university since our meeting?" "Different," Marcus said honestly. "People treat me differently now. And your scholarship offer. I can't thank you enough for that." Bennett waved his hand. "You earned it. Not many young people would have done what you did." He leaned forward. "But that's not the only reason I asked you here today." Marcus waited, curious. "I've been looking at your academic record. Your grades are excellent, especially in chemistry. And Dr. Petal speaks very highly of your work in the lab." Marcus was surprised. "You talked to Dr. Patel?" Bennett nodded. "I did. She says you have creative ideas about making medicines more affordable. That interests me greatly." He stood up and walked to a large window. "Marcus, do you know what my company does?" "You make computers and phones, right?" Bennett smiled. "That's what we're known for. But we do much more. One division of my company works on medical research. We're trying to find new ways to make important medicines that everyone can afford." Marcus sat up straighter. This was exactly what he wanted to do. "I have a proposal for you," Bennett continued. "In addition to your scholarship, I'd like you to join a special project team here. You would work part-time during the school year and full-time in the summer. We're developing a new way to produce insulin at a fraction of the current cost." Marcus couldn't believe what he was hearing. "But I'm just a student. I don't have a degree yet." "Sometimes fresh eyes see things experienced scientists miss," Bennett said. "Your background gives you a different perspective. You understand why affordable medicine matters in a way many of my researchers don't." Marcus thought about his mother, how she had struggled to pay for medicine when he was young. He thought about his neighbors back home, choosing between food and health care. "This is an incredible opportunity," Marcus said. "But can I ask you something? Why me? There are many students with good grades." Bennett walked back to his desk and sat down. "Let me tell you a story," he said. "When I was young, before I had money, my father got very sick. We couldn't afford the medicine he needed. By the time we found a program to help us, it was too late." He paused. "I built this company and made my fortune, but I never forgot that lesson." He looked directly at Marcus. "When you shouted in that cafeteria, you showed me something rare. Someone who cares more about doing what's right than about looking good or fitting in. That's the kind of person I want on my team." Marcus sat quietly, taking in Bennett's words. For the first time, he saw the billionaire not just as a rich businessman, but as a person who had faced struggles too. "I would be honored to join your team," Marcus said finally. "Thank you for this chance." Bennett smiled. "Excellent. Let me show you the lab where you'll be working." They took an elevator down several floors. When the doors opened, Marcus saw a large, bright laboratory with state-of-the-art equipment. It was much bigger and more advanced than the university lab. People in white coats moved around the room, working at different stations. "This is our medical research division," Bennett explained. "The team working on affordable insulin is over here." He led Marcus to a section where 3 scientists were studying data on computer screens. They looked up when Bennett approached. "Everyone, this is Marcus Williams, the student I told you about. Marcus, meet Dr. Chen, Dr. Patel, and Dr. Rodriguez." Marcus was surprised to see Dr. Patel from his university. "Dr. Patel, you work here too?" She smiled. "Part-time. I split my work between teaching and research here. Mr. Bennett didn't just call me for a reference. I recommended you for this project. Marcus will be joining your team, Bennett told the group. He has some unique insights that might help with our production method. Dr. Chen, an older man with kind eyes, nodded. We've heard good things about you, Marcus. Fresh ideas are always welcome. Dr. Rodriguez showed Marcus the project they were working on. We've developed a new way to produce insulin, but we're having trouble making it stable enough for long-term storage. That's where we need help. Marcus looked at their data and the chemical formulas on the screen. Even though some of it was advanced, he understood the basic problem they were trying to solve. Have you tried adjusting the pH level during the final stage? He asked, pointing to one part of the formula. The scientists exchanged surprised looks. That's actually a good suggestion, Dr. Chen said. We should test that approach. For the next hour, they talked about the project, with Marcus asking questions and offering ideas. Some were things the scientists had already tried, but others were new approaches. Bennett watched with a pleased expression. When it was time to leave, Bennett walked Marcus back to the elevator. The team seems impressed with you. How do you feel about all this? It's like a dream, Marcus admitted. Yesterday I was just trying to pass my classes. Now I'm working on a project that could help thousands of people. Sometimes life changes quickly, Bennett said. The car will take you back to campus. The team expects you here next Tuesday after your classes. We'll work around your school schedule. As Marcus rode back to the university in the fancy car, his mind raced with everything that had happened. He texted his mom, "Wait until you hear about my new job. Can't wait to see you this weekend." When he got back to campus, his roommate Jamal was waiting with big news. "Dude, you're not going to believe this. The local news wants to interview you about saving Bennett from poison apples." Marcus shook his head. "I didn't save him from poison. It was just high levels of pesticides." "Whatever, man. You're going to be on TV." Marcus hadn't expected that. He wasn't sure he wanted all this attention. He just wanted to study and work on the insulin project. Later that evening, Marcus got a call from an unknown number. He almost didn't answer it, thinking it might be another reporter. But something told him to pick up. "Hello. Is this Marcus Williams?" It was a woman's voice. "Yes, it is. My name is Sophia Carter. I'm a diabetic who relies on insulin every day. I saw your story online about how you're working with Bennett Innovations on affordable insulin." Her voice was full of emotion. "I just wanted to say thank you. My family struggles to pay for my medicine every month." Marcus felt a lump in his throat. "We're just getting started, but we're going to do our best. People like me are counting on people like you," Sophia said. "Don't forget that." After they hung up, Marcus sat on his bed, thinking. The call from Sophia made everything real. This wasn't just about a scholarship or a cool job anymore. Real people needed this medicine. He opened his chemistry textbook and began to study with a new sense of purpose. 3 years passed quickly. Marcus stood in his cap and gown, waiting for his name to be called at the graduation ceremony. He looked out at the crowd and saw his mother, tears of joy in her eyes. Beside her sat Richard Bennett, who had become not just Marcus's boss, but his mentor and friend. "Marcus Williams, graduating with highest honors in chemistry," the dean announced. As Marcus walked across the stage to get his diploma, loud cheers came from the audience, not just from his mother and Bennett, but from many students and professors who had come to respect him over the years. So much had changed since that day in the cafeteria when Marcus had shouted at a billionaire not to eat an apple. The insulin project had been a huge success. The team had found a way to make insulin that cost only 1/5 of the usual price. It was now being used by thousands of people who couldn't afford the expensive brands. Marcus had become known on campus as both a top student and someone who cared about helping others. He had started a program where science students worked with local health clinics to help people understand their medications better. After the ceremony, Marcus hugged his mother tight. "I'm so proud of you, baby," she said, wiping away tears. "Your father would have been so proud too." Bennett shook Marcus's hand firmly. Congratulations. You've earned this. They went to a nice restaurant to celebrate. As they ate, Bennett had big news to share. Marcus, I want you to lead our new affordable medicine division after you finish your master's degree. It will focus not just on insulin but on other important medications that people need. Marcus was surprised. Lead the division? But I'll still be young, and I'll just have my master's degree, not a thesis. Bennett smiled. You have something more important than degrees. You understand why this work matters. You connect with the people we're trying to help. Marcus thought about it. He had already been accepted to the master's program at the university. With Bennett's scholarship, he could complete it in just 1 year. I would be honored, Marcus said finally. His mother reached across the table and squeezed his hand. Look how far you've come, she said softly. Later that evening, Marcus walked around the campus one last time as a student. He stopped by the cafeteria where it had all started. It looked the same, but he was different. His phone buzzed with a text from Sophia, the diabetic woman who had called him years ago. They had become friends, and she had been one of the first people to try the new affordable insulin. Congratulations, Marcus. My whole support group is celebrating your graduation today. You changed our lives. Marcus smiled and texted back his thanks. As he walked back to his dorm, he thought about how one small moment can change everything. He had been so afraid that day in the cafeteria. Speaking up had been scary. He could have stayed quiet and let Bennett eat the apple. It probably wouldn't have made Bennett very sick. Just a stomach ache maybe. No one would have known it was Marcus who stayed silent. But that wasn't who Marcus was. He couldn't see something wrong and say nothing. That moment of courage had opened doors he never knew existed. The next week, Marcus was invited to speak at a conference about affordable medicine. He wasn't used to public speaking, but he had an important message to share. 3 years ago, I was just a scholarship student trying to get by, he told the audience. I saw something dangerous about to happen, and I had a choice to make: stay quiet or speak up. He looked out at the crowd. Bennett was sitting in the front row, nodding encouragingly. What I learned that day, and what I want to share with you today, is that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about doing what's right even when you're afraid. It's about using your knowledge to help others, even when it's difficult. Marcus looked at the slides showing how many people could now afford their medicine because of their team's work. One moment of courage can start something amazing, he said. And sometimes, the person you help today might be the person who helps you tomorrow. So never be afraid to do what's right. You never know where it might lead.